Okay, this is a quick little introduction and demonstration of a very lightweight toolkit that can run on just about every modern and legacy device and operating system in common use. It uses the Python BODL and pyDAL frameworks and the jsLinb front-end framework. This is a little demo of the front-end framework. The benefit of this jsLinb framework is that it runs on just about every browser that's ever supported JavaScript in legacy environments where you can't get most of the modern frameworks to work. And it also has a really nice visual layout environment that's really productive. So this is just a quick little CRUD demo here. So you can create, update, delete. It's got a little grid. So you can see with built-in sorting and so on. And you can delete. There's a quick little animation demo here. And you can see there's also a sort of dynamically generated layout here. And you can see this is responsive to a degree. This doesn't have a flexbox, but it works nicely when you have to use browsers different size and on mobile. And there's a little bit more here just to show how this works. You can use any other front-end framework. This is the layout system. You don't have to use jsLinb to use the rest of the toolkit, but this little visual builder is super productive and works really nicely. You can even run on new and old mobile phones and just about every other popular operating system. So I'm going to show you just a little bit more about I'm going to explain a little bit more about what's in the system, and then we'll get to making applications with it. So this again is Python, BODL, and pyDAL frameworks, the JavaScript, jsLinb front end. The only requirements to run this toolkit are Python 3.x, any version of Python 3, or Python 2.7, any normal text editor, and basically any browser, even really old legacy browsers. Internet Explorer 6, Firefox 1, and Safari, even on iPhone 1, runs for the front end. Even the experimental browser on Kindle works with this toolkit. To be clear, there's absolutely no setup required to run any application created with this toolkit. All you need is a browser, open it to the URL of the app. Python requirement is just for the development and deployment backend server environment. Otherwise, just runs. Everything in the BODL and pyDAL and jsLinb frameworks are already installed in the zip file. Just download the 2.3 meg zip file, unpack it, and everything is ready to go. You don't need to pip install anything. All you need in your system is a common version of Python. The drag and drop builder, jsLinb, includes an IDE with really useful autocomplete and round-trip WYSIWYG editing, so you can go back and forth between your visual drag and drop layout generator and the code, and the visual drag and drop editor creates code instantly, and if you edit code, that is displayed immediately in the visual designer. There are a bunch of demos here. You can see a bunch of examples of the front end, but again, you're not tied at all to using the jsLinb front end. Use any other front end you want. This has been tested to run on Windows XP 7, 8, 10, 11, and even the layout portions of jsLinb run in Windows 95 and 98 using a browser called RetroZilla. It's been tested in Windows or in Linux 64-bit and 32-bit, even on stock Knoppix and Puppy and Q4S, other live boot disks, and of course in Debian and Ubuntu and all those flavors. It's been tested on Android and iOS phones and tablets, even really old ones. You just need to be able to run Termux on Android or Alpine Linux and ISH on iOS. Really any other environment where Python can be installed. If you've got something like apt-get install Python 3 or Python 2, you're ready to go. It's been tested in Chromebook and Crostini in a Linux environment that comes with all the Chromebooks since around 2018, 2019. This has been tested to run in lots of old Atom powered single core netbooks that have less than a gigabyte of RAM and less than a gigabyte of, or less than a gigahertz of processing speed from 20 years ago. Runs great on old Android phones, runs on Raspberry Pi devices and any other single board PC that can install a Python. And the front end's even running a Kindle experimental browser. All you need to run the full development and deployment system is Python 3 or 2.7. Basically, you're going to download a zip file, run a batch file to get the server running, open localhost or the IP address of your development machine. And then we're going to code using the layout builder and copy that code into a test.js file and refresh the browser. That's the development cycle. Super easy. Even if you haven't written code before, it's possible to get started with this really quickly. There are a bunch of links here about each of the tools in this kit and documentation. And to be really clear, everything here can be run on a mobile phone, tablet, desktop PC. You can actually do the development of these apps on any device that can run Python and serve the apps also. And then multi-users can connect to that with their browser. They don't have to have any software installed at all. Just open the browser to the application URL. Also, any of the included tools in the platform can be replaced. So any front-end framework that can make AJAX calls or HTTP requests of any kind can be used. So React, jQuery, Angular, MUI, Material Design, Bootstrap, any of those things work. Anything on the web that works with XUI, Fetch, Axios, any other library that enables HTTP requests, even curl, or if you're using a native OS framework that can send requests to internet URLs, you can use the backend for those sorts of front ends. You don't really need a framework at all. Bottle can deliver ancient old HTML forms with a submit button. That works too. No AJAX is required, but the default examples are given with the jsLinb builder. You can also swap out the backend. So the Bottle server and REST framework that we're going to use works nearly identically to Flask, Fast API, Django REST framework, Anvil framework, and the pyDAL ORM, the object relational database system, can be replaced by SQL Alchemy, Pony, Django, Dataset, Anvil, or any other common Python ORM, or you can just write SQL code in Python using a database driver. The ORMs just are there to make it easier to switch between databases, so you don't have to change your SQL code for each database, and also makes it faster and easier to write in pure Python. The built-in pyDAL ORM is great. Doesn't have any other requirements. You don't have to do any pip install, and you can switch instantly between MySQL, Postgres, Oracle, MS SQL, even NoSQL databases like Mongo and Google Data Store, and a bunch more, just by changing a connection string, as long as you have a Python driver installed for that database system. Out of the box, it's set up to use SQLite, which is installed by default on every version of Python. 2.7 works great. Any version of 3.x Python will work on Android, iOS, Chromebook, Linux, Windows, Raspberry Pi, any of those. So that can be your hosting service, and you can swap out the WSGI server to run quickly, use it with any commercial web host that can run Python. Run it on old netbooks that you can get for 20 bucks on eBay. The point here is that you can have a really functional full stack system that's quick to use, tiny 2.3 megs in total, doesn't require any installation at all, and then can be scaled up very easily using any of these drop-in replacement front end or back end systems. So you get the full power of Python and JavaScript in a really simple system. So that's a basic explanation of what we're doing here. We're going to start by covering how to use Bottle to write backend, and then we're going to go through a quick introduction about how to use pyDAL to save, create, read, update, and delete data in a database. And then we'll look at this visual designer and look at the code you need to interact with the backend database, and you'll learn how to build those sorts of CRUD apps and some other neat layouts in the front end that are useful. And from there, you should be able to use the whole system. Should take no more than a couple hours to get running with this, even if you haven't done much coding in the past.